Hey everybody, Josh Searson, a World Alternative Media here, and let's talk about choosing your new master in Canada because obviously the Canadian elections is happening on the 21st of October. A lot of people are talking about it, and I figure it would be good to get into some of the vast controversies that we are witnessing during these elections here in Canada. Nothing new there. Every election you find anywhere in the world is just plagued by controversy and a circus in itself, and that tells you a little bit about what Canadian elections or what elections in general are really all about. And it never ends up being about you folks. It's always about this reality show of this popularity contest and lying the best to get people on your side by, saying you're going to give people free things or you're going to cut these things that people don't like, whatever it might be. And it rarely ends up being true. Maybe 10% of it becomes true, and that goes into a whole other realm of whether it's moral or obviously logical, which is a really important point to point out here. But obviously there's been a lot of controversies in the news regarding the elections, and obviously I think a few days after the election kicked off, because it kicks off a lot sooner in Canada than the US, which is like 2 years nonstop of it. But as we could see, Justin Trudeau got in quite a bit of trouble for wearing blackface. Now, look, I'm not going to carry over the same SJW attitude that he carries over to all the people on the other side, but it's just, how many times can you possibly wear blackface and get caught doing it? It's just so over the top weird. And obviously, I thought it was going to destroy him, but you know what? This is the thing. It's about seats. So, as I spoke with Tim Moen recently, the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, in a recent interview, as he went into, Justin Trudeau will probably win for one reason, even though his approval rating is just tanking and is absolutely horrible, and most Canadians can't stand him, and most people in general just don't like the guy. He's a frat boy and he's a bully, and he's really rather low in the IQ scale. But the reason why he'll win is because, and this is according to Tim Moen, is because he will get seats, because people are more interested in getting the seats and getting the majority than they are about the actual prime minister himself. I mean, he himself is actually Justin Trudeau is at risk of possibly losing his own seat in his own riding. But anyway, good old Justin Trudeau got endorsed by Barack Obama, or whatever you want to call him. And obviously this is a Salon article and it's trash. I thought they went bankrupt. Anyway, Obama endorsed Canada's Justin Trudeau for another term in spite of blackface scandal. It doesn't matter. They virtue signal. They don't care about that stuff. It's all about power and control and a narrative. And they're working on that narrative and they don't want to give it up for anything, obviously. Now, let's look at some of these other stories that are coming out. Well, obviously, there's the SNC-Lavalin scandal. And the Lavalin scandal seriously affected Justin Trudeau. And then he ousted Judy Wilson-Raybould, who came out about it after she claimed that Trudeau was trying to force her to, or almost, blackmail in a way, her into taking a side on this in order to be, soft and easy on SNC-Lavalin, which has all sorts of connections with Libya, and it's just a very corrupt company. And Justin Trudeau, well, it's in his riding. He didn't want to see, unemployment in his riding if they get caught and the scandal brings them down. So he tried to get involved, allegedly, and weaseled his way in, as a politician does, to try and sway it the other way. By the way, Justin Trudeau has fired more women from his cabinet than any previous prime minister. So it's all, virtue signaling until it comes down to the reality of the fact that he's a frat boy bully who is really dumb and has the public stage. And I don't think he's actually sets policy. He's too absurd to set policy. He's a puppet. He's a puppet. And he was a good one in 2015. Not so much this time around. Now, big scandals are also hitting people like Jagmeet Singh of the NDP, who claimed that we shouldn't respect conservatives, and he came back and said, oh, actually, I apologize for that. We should respect conservatives. He's saying that because it makes him look good, guys. Everyone's like, oh, what a great guy. Good on him. He doesn't actually care about any of that. It's all just like facade. And he's not a good guy because he wants to rule you and extort you to enforce his ideas. He thinks his ideas are so good that he can force his will on everyone at gunpoint. It's something people seem to forget about politics. And Scheer is facing some controversy as well. As this article out of CBC state-run crap media says, Kinsella consulting firm worked to seek and destroy Bernier's PPC party, documents say. Sources tell CBC News that Daisy Group was acting for Conservative Party of Canada. And as the article goes into, Warren Kinsella's Daisy Group consulting firm was behind a social media campaign to put the People's Party of Canada, PPC, on the defensive and keep leader Maxime Bernier out of the federal leaders' debates, according to documents provided to CBC News. The documents outline the work done by several employees of Daisy on behalf of an unnamed client. A source with knowledge of the project told CBC News that client was the Conservative Party of Canada. The plan was first reported on Friday night by the Globe and Mail. According to a source with knowledge of the project who spoke to CBC News on condition they not be named, the objective of the plan, dubbed Project Cactus, was to make the Conservative Party look more attractive to voters by highlighting PPC candidates and supporters' xenophobic statements on social media. The source added that Daisy employed 4 full-time staffers on Project Cactus at one time. Kinsella is a lawyer, anti-racism activist, and former Liberal strategist who has been a vocal critic of Liberal leader Justin Trudeau. Repeatedly asked to confirm or explain his party's involvement during a campaign event in Toronto on Saturday, Conservative leader Andrew Scheer refused to answer. And I quote, "As a rule, we never make comments on vendors that we may or may not have engaged with," he said repeatedly. Trudeau was asked today if he has concerns his party could also be targeted, but he did not answer directly. He said, and I quote, "We've seen through this campaign that the Conservatives have had to use the policies of fear and division and indeed just making stuff up in order to get their message across," he said during an event in Hamilton. Why? It's because they have nothing to offer Canadians except $53 billion worth of cuts. Well, $53 billion less extorted isn't exactly the worst thing in the world, Trudeau, so you might not want to use that as a talking point. But nonetheless, it's funny because, Scheer is basically a leftist. And look, I don't actually care about this whole thing, hiring a firm. Every election campaign does that, really. It doesn't surprise me. And yeah, they're going to go after Bernier because Bernier ran against Scheer and then lost the ticket for the Conservative Party of Canada and then ended up running or creating the People's Party of Canada, which funnily enough has like a weird communist name. But nonetheless, I interviewed him a while back ago, by the way. And by the way, I got to say this before I finish talking about Scheer. I got to show this. So look, this is Maxime Bernier, World Alternative Media, searched on YouTube. That's what happens. And check this out. Check this out. Do you see any of our like dozens of videos, including my interview with Maxime Bernier on the first page? No, you don't, because we're shadow banned. How about on the second page? Maybe on the second page? Let's see. No. Oh, we found one where we talked to Tim Moen. Okay, 16,000 views. Look at that compared to the views of the other videos we just passed by. Oh, and here we go, our interview with Maxime Bernier from a couple years ago, where he says he'll beat Kevin O'Leary in the leaders race, and he talked about the UN and all that kind of stuff and quantitative easing and all sorts of stuff like that. Anyway, I just had to bring that up because we are shadow banned to death and we've lost 80% of our audience since January because YouTube is muzzling us and not allowing us to be seen. But anyway, oh, I just realized I didn't show any of that. Let me cut back to that so I can actually properly show this because I thought I didn't realize just my face was on camera. So check this out. You look up Maxime Bernier on World Alternative Media. You see that there. Search. And you go down the page and nothing. What's going on here? Nothing. It's not happening because we're completely shadow banned, and you finally find us all the way down here. There's one video I did with Tim Moen 7 months ago, which has way more views than the rest of the videos. And our interview with Maxime Bernier here. Sorry, it messed up there when I was first showing there. I could have swore I clicked the shot around to show the screen. Anyway, just shows how shadow banned we are. Again, we've lost 80% of our viewership since January because we've been muzzled by YouTube. Anyway, going back to my face. Anyway, I got to get into this because, look, Andrew Scheer is a leftist. He's a liberal. He is hiring liberal strategists. It's nothing new that he's doing that. Obviously, People have been calling him out. That's why the PPC has become a thing, is because people don't like the milquetoast liberalism. But it's all part of the same collectivist paradigm, folks. It's all part of the same thing. And in the end, it's you guys that get laughed at, and you guys that get used, and you guys that get abused because people keep saying, well, maybe this guy's different, maybe this guy's different. Change, change, change. You can believe in over and over again, back to ancient Greece. Well, our democracy. The democracy, you mean two wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for dinner? Great democracy, guys. Sounds awesome. It's absurd. Anyway, getting back to the news here, everyone is facing controversy right now. Trudeau, blackface, SNC-Lavalin, and obviously a host of issues. Going back to the first election, we got to respect Canada's or China's basic dictatorship and stuff like that. And, praising Castro, and Jagmeet Singh has praised Castro as well. He's basically a communist that comes across as nice, which is weird because, he is trying to get the Sikh population to vote for him, but Sikhs are historically actually conservative. But anyway, so these are all issues affecting the election right now, and of course the Consilla Daisy Group thing is, Bernier says that, he wants to get an actual investigation into this case, and I'm going to bring that up on the screen. This time I'll actually show things on the screen properly. Here we go. Bernier files complaint to elections watchdog over secret campaign to smear his party. Well, there you go. So I don't know. It's all politics, guys, and it's like when Justin Trudeau got caught with the blackface. Andrew Scheer's like, we are so appalled and disgusted by this. It's like, dude, you don't care. You don't actually care about any of that. You're trying to get votes, and of course you are. That's part of your job, is to get votes, but you don't actually care. Come on. It's absurd. Let's get into some other stuff here. That's the Consilla Group. Let's finish this off. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh said any plan to subvert a political party paid by another party is troubling. He said, I've made it clear that I don't believe someone like Bernier should have a platform to spread hateful messages. I think his messages are wrong, he said during a campaign event in Vancouver. But at the end of the day, people should be able to discuss and express their opinions as long as they're not hateful and divisive, and be able to have the forum to do that. Dude, like you're saying, he shouldn't have a platform, but we should be able to discuss things. It's just like these mental gymnastics that these politicians play. It's like, what are you saying? You're saying two things at once to try and settle things on both sides and make people feel good. It's all political talk, and that's why you should know they're all lying to you. They're all lying, all of them. Bernie has a record of supporting the United Nations, supporting globalism, supporting war in Libya, being anti-prohibition, pro-prohibition, I should say. He isn't really a libertarian at all. He focuses on stealing people's property rights under his his view on borders. It's just like, that's actually just growing government, guys. He talks about some cuts and stuff, and he talks about politically incorrect stuff, which is great. Yeah, I agree. We should talk about politically incorrect things, and we shouldn't be stopped from saying anything. We should say whatever we want. Offense is nonsense. It's your problem, not mine, if I offend you, right? And I mean, great. But his voting record has prompted people to use a hashtag which Bernier, because on one side, he's like, he tells me in an interview I do with him, he's against the United Nations, and we got to call that out. But then in his voting record, he's adamantly pro-UN. He's pro-war. He's pro-prohibition. He's pro all these things that neocons and leftists have. And he saw an opening for, nationalism. He saw an opening for a populist candidate, and he went for it as a politician does, and good for him. But he's not a libertarian, folks. So the people that call him the Ron Paul of Canada, it makes me cringe, because he's not. But anyway, people can do whatever they want. If they want to throw votes at people, I don't care. But I don't think people should be able to represent me or rule over me. They don't have the right to rule over me. And I think that should be clear at this point. Anyway, let's look into some of these other stories affecting the Canadian election. Here, let's see. I'm just looking at some of the live chat, because we are live. For those watching not so live, I kind of screwed it up right at the beginning of the video by messing up my screen grab, which I didn't actually show. Rainy Steps sent $2.79 Canadian. Says hello, my friend. Thank you, Rainy Steps. Hello to you as well. Thank you for the super chat. It makes a huge difference. My dad commented, I think though Soylent Green was people, but now I see that Soylent Green is pure sarcasm. All right. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. In the live chat, Rainy Steps just sent another $2.79 Canadian. Thank you again. I think we have to ride the tiger. Well, at this point, I look, we've been looking for the practical and pragmatic way of handling elections since the beginning of elections, since the beginning of democracy in Greece. Every single time, well, these people are terrible. Maybe this person's good. Oh, this person's great. Elect them. It's a revolution. Oh, they're the same old, same old. Government grows. Government grows. People die. People get extorted. People go into poverty. Money keeps getting printed. It all just keeps piling up. And nothing changes. Voting doesn't change anything. Voting doesn't change anything. Folks, it drives me crazy seeing, yes, I see all these vote PPC. Why? What is that going to do? First of all, even if he could win, he's still pro-war. He's still pro-printing of currency, quantitative easing, all that craziness. I've interviewed him on it. He's still pro-central bank. He's still pro-regulations and taxation. He's still going to steal from you. And guess what? He'll get a bullet in the head if he is actually any good, because that's how the establishment works. Break free from this establishment and stop looking for people to rule over you. You do not have a right to rule your neighbor. You have no right to say that my neighbor needs his kitchen fixed, so I'm going to extort my other neighbor to give that. It's absurd. You do not have a right over other people. Collectivism begets collectivism, and it grows all the time like a cancer. It is a cancer. You can cut 95% of that cancer out, and you still have 5% left. What's going to happen with that 5% of that cancer that you have left? It will grow. Oh, maybe temporary prosperity. You know what pragmatism is? Pragmatism is inconsistency. That's what it is. It isn't actually going to practically help people. It won't. Pragmatism simply is what people have leaned on since the beginning of democracy. And democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for dinner. It is a destruction of free will, destruction of individual liberty. It is the complex of fear to scare people into subservience, to bow down to the government, to bow down to the state, to bow down to this massive entity that people are so dependent on. You know why? You know why so many of you are still supporting voting? And Sakya Girl says, who are you suggesting Canadians vote for? Nobody. You know why? You know why this keeps happening? People are dependent on government because when you are in elementary school, when you're growing up in public school, you spend most of your time, the majority of your time in your childhood, listening to a government teacher tell you what to think and indoctrinating you. You spend more time with them than you do with your own parents. And then you grow up and you're out of school and you feel helpless and you need to be dependent on things. You feel you've been indoctrinated to be dependent, and you think, well, I cannot imagine a world without an enforced social contract governance structure to extort everyone, to enforce my ideas on everyone collectively. So I must be dependent on this entity or that entity. That's why conservatives are liberals and liberals are ultra-liberals. It's all part of the same complex of fear. Government uses fear to push people into helplessness, to think, oh, well, this guy sucks, so I guess we have to have these people instead. It won't ever work. It won't ever change anything. I'm the guy who went up to Justin Trudeau and called him a scumbag to his face, and I tried to confront Stephen Harper before that. Yeah, because I'm consistent. I would confront Andrew Scheer if I could. I would confront Jagmeet Singh if I could, and Elizabeth May with... man, she just wants to enforce a crazy Agenda 2030 civilization onto society, extorting people, pushing people into, these small city or big cities, pushing people into big cities, pushing them away from the farm, making people more dependent, which is funny because she is so-called environmentalist, but she has been a big supporter of Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 through her Sierra Club membership, which has led to this notion of pushing people and impoverishing small communities and pushing people into big communities in order to destroy farmers or farms and making people more dependent on the state and less independent, less able to take care of themselves, less able to grow their own, less able to collect water, which, by the way, in many places is illegal to collect rainwater. It's illegal in a lot of places to grow gardens on your lawn. This is all an extortion scheme to enslave humanity, folks. And what do I see? I still see people saying vote PPC. For goodness sakes, guys. I don't know what to say anymore. I try to explain. Slavery won't be cured by slavery. Collectivism won't be cured by collectivism. Some guy that you like in a nice suit who says some things that you like should not mean extorting the majority of the populace to enforce your views on them because you think you know what's best for everyone. Same as the left, same as the right. If the leftist came in and you were on the right, you'd say, "No, I don't want that. Why should I have to bow down to this? This is craziness." And then if you're on the left and you have a conservative come in and they're cutting things, or for example, and they want to go to war, and you're like, "No, I don't want this." It doesn't matter what your opinions are. They should not be enforced on free human beings. That's not freedom. Freedom has nothing to do with government. Government is the absence of freedom. Government is force. Government is organized crime. Government is an entity of fear. Government is an entity of criminal force against the populace that depends on the complete subservience of the masses. The government does not benefit from lack of subservience. Noel Studio says, Agenda 21 is already being implemented. Of course. And we're seeing that destroy small communities, and we see the carbon tax get put in. And people say, well, it's good enough for me if they just get rid of the carbon tax. If one of these politicians just get rid of the carbon tax. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Inflation still continues. All these things still continue. Government will not solve government, and they got you in a perpetual state of subservience by constantly going out to vote for one side or the other, or the other, or the other. Maybe the other. This is why I like Tim Moen of the Libertarian Party of Canada, who I don't suggest voting for, but I suggest listening to. He's a friend of mine, who says, hey, if everyone starts voting for us, we're doing our job wrong, because our idea is to get on the stage and tell people and preach from high places, stop being a slave and stop being a statist. I mean, it's insane, the level of subservience of the masses, the level of slavery we see on a regular basis, and everyone goes, all these Bush supporters are like, I hate Bush now, I'm going to vote for Obama. Oh, I hate Obama now, I'm going to vote for Trump. Oh, and at the end of it, it's like, Trump didn't do all these things that he promised. He did a few things, but, back here and there, that you couldn't get around the major establishment that controls, civilization worldwide. Well, maybe this person will help. What it reminds me of the U.S. elections is the Canadian elections in a lot of ways. Like, we're kind of behind one step, and we should have a glimpse into the future. Because if you look at it from this perspective, you have Harper, you have Bush in the States. Harper is replaced by Trudeau in Canada after Bush is replaced by Obama. The leftists, the SJW, all that kind of stuff. Great. And then everyone gets pissed off by them, and they go, okay, we need populism. And then Trump is elected in the United States, and then they think, well, maybe we're back in like the 2012 elections for Canada versus the United States. In the United States in 2012, you have Mitt Romney versus Obama. Two leftists. That sound the same. And now in Canada, in this election, that's what I said, we're behind. You have Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau, two leftists. And then you have Jagmeet Singh, another leftist. And Maxime Bernier, who is pro-war and pro-prohibition and pro all these other things that have similarities with libertarianism or freedom. He's just riding a populism train. And look, I've met him. I like the guy as an individual, but he's riding the populism train. I've interviewed him. And by the way, like I mentioned earlier, this is kind of funny. This is what happens when you search up Maxime Bernier on YouTube. I'm going to switch it over here. Check this out. So you search out Maxime Bernier, World Alternative Media. I couldn't get more obvious. And look at this. Nothing. None of our videos. We've done dozens of videos on this subject, but nothing. Nothing comes up. Let's try again. Let's go to the next page. Nothing. Oh, there's one of our videos that we did with Tim Moen on Maxime Bernier, and there's our interview with Maxime Bernier from a couple years ago. I mean, this is how shadow banned we are, and this is why we need your help, and this is why we need those super chats, and this is why we need the support of our viewers before we get obliterated and we'll be wiped off YouTube, and you'll just have more of the same people, left or right, black or white, all that kind of nonsense over and over again for the rest of time. We will be gone soon. So, the best form of voting is the market and voting for the things that you like and support and want to see in the future. You want to see the diversity of ideas and opinions, not just CBC versus Global News versus CTV, or Fox News versus CNN versus MSNBC versus NBC versus all these CBS, all these BBC, France 24, TRT. They're mainstream media meant to divide the populace and drive them against each other, and they're both wrong from both sides, and they're keeping people in that paradigm of left and right. And we're here trying to break people free from that. And we're not getting a lot of support, to be honest. It's 1 in every 10,000 people will actually support, so it's pretty sad. So anyway, this is my shout out to people to help out any way they can to keep WHAM alive and keep independent media alive. It makes a huge difference. And it's about keeping independent media free and open to the public so that, the future generations don't have to deal with the monopoly of mainstream media that so many generations before us have had to deal with. And I see Maria Casanova says people are totally asleep. The corrupt mainstream media is misleading everyone into supporting Agenda 2030 and the globalist agenda for the implementation of total censorship and dictatorship and surveillance enslavement. It's absolutely true. And let's see. David Cox says, last night CTV had 3 negative and biased stories on Scheer. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, most of the mainstream media in Canada is leftist, which also makes people starve for the right and the populism a bit more, which I actually think is part of the plan, personally. I think that the absurdity of the left often is used as a way to get people to vote for the other side so that they stay in that paradigm. It's left or right, and they keep having that fluctuation. But every time a right-wing person comes in, by the end of their term and the next person comes in, the government has grown anyway. It's always grown. It's always growing. The government is growing like a cancer all the time. Barnaby Joe Wiggles a bit. That's an interesting name. Says they throw us crumbs in return for a lifetime of exploitation. Agreed. Gorenum says, I'm pretty sure that our vote, this isn't even counted, and they just say, hey, 78% vote this one. You can say anything out of nowhere. It's true, you can. And I mean, it doesn't matter because people shouldn't be able to decide the fate of their neighbor. It's wrong. It's wrong for me to say to my next door neighbor, I want you to pay for the interest on this debt that I accumulated. I bought this house and I don't have enough money, so I'm paying down some lease, or I got a mortgage, for example, and I'm paying the interest on it. Only the interest, none of the actual debt, just the interest. But I don't want to pay for it, even though you didn't ask for this to happen. You have to pay for it now. People have this illusion of freedom, like on basically on a farm. You have all these cattle, and they're all fenced in, and they all are eating grass. They feel very free because they have that grass, but they don't realize there's grass outside the cage. And they don't realize what's in store for them, and they just have a smile on their face, and they get led off by the shepherd to the slaughter with a smile on their face all the way, not knowing what's going on. And, every now and then the grass gets brown, and they protest it, so they grow more green grass, and everyone's happy. It's all nonsense that leads to the same end climax. The psychedelic professor says, you sound a little quiet. Do you think it would be possible to up the volume slightly, directed to Josh? Well, I'm looking at my program here, and the volume seems rather fine. Is anyone else having that problem? I'll turn it up a bit. I don't know. There, I just turned it up. Does that make any difference? Turn the gain up a bit. I don't know. The German authorities damaged my microphone. I was going through the German airport in Frankfurt, and the morons, a complete, utter moron status thugs, decided to pull my microphone out. It broke the thing on it. It's really hard to keep it tightly on, and it's all dented. all over the place. You can't really see it properly in the shot there, but they just destroyed my microphone. So I have to get a new Yeti mic, but I can't afford it. I can't even afford to keep my website up right now because, like I said, like 1 in 10,000 people are actually contributing to helping keep independent media alive, keeping WAM alive. It's my responsibility to save WAM as I cut 80% of our viewership and 90% of our monetization. It's my responsibility to get around the shadow banning where like no one's seeing our videos for the most part anymore. It's like even if I confront Bernie Sanders, no one sees a video. But while I'm at it, it would be great if the people who enjoyed what I do help in some way. Like $1 a month. That's all. Just $1 every single month. Just one single dollar. That's all I ask. We have Patreon, GoFundMe, Subscribestar, where we do subscriber-only content. All that stuff is in the description of this video. Make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already as well. That also helps us get into the algorithm and get seen. Because once this live stream is over, the views are going to drop off, and we'll maybe get 3 or 4 views an hour, most likely, until it just stops in about a day. I posted 2 other videos today, and the reason I'm on my 3rd video here is because I have to, or else I go broke and bankrupt because like 1 in 10,000 people are actually contributing, and the media is going under, and Press for Truth is going under, and We Are Change is going under, and all the independent medias are going under because we always thought that people supported us enough to actually, I don't know, maybe give us $1 a month to save the future of information, so it won't be all mainstream media in about a 1.5 years, 2 years, when they ultimately delete all of our channels from YouTube forever. Anyway, I should get back to the election. So, and by the way, for those that are interested, please do join us on float.app. That's flote.app. flote.app. I'm at Josh Sigurdsson as well as at Wham. So I hope you guys come on out to float.app. It's a new social media to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr, Twitch, Reddit. A big one, like I said, YouTube. It's really important because we're going to actually have monetization on Float in the future. It's one way of fixing the problem. And I got lots of plans up my sleeve, but it's going to take a while and money as well to make it work so that we could save independent media. But also we got... they're replacing Patreon on this site as well, so you can pledge monthly with crypto. So as you can see, I don't have a lot, $16.99 US in Bitcoin here. But anyway, anything that you guys can do makes a big difference. And a BitChute, we are on BitChute at World Alternative Media. People keep saying they're searching us up on here and not finding us. Well, we're here, and look at our puny viewership. 27 views on this video, 44 on this one. We have 414 subscribers. You got to go somewhere else. When YouTube takes us down, we'll just disappear if you guys don't follow us on other places and other platforms. Anyway, so Bernier responded yesterday to the attempt by Andrew Scheer to allegedly try and take down his campaign by spreading fear. And as Trudeau says, by spreading divide and fear. That's my Trudeau impression. Anyway, but I mean, so there's a lot of controversies. And what are we thinking here when it comes to politics? That someone's going to come in and actually make things different. Politics is organized crime. Government is organized crime. And what we have here is we have Trudeau with all these controversies, Scheer with all these controversies. We have Jagmeet Singh with all these controversies. We have a whole bunch of controversies coming from Elizabeth May. Did you see her faking the straw? Let me actually bring that up on the screen. I think that's worth showing here. Elizabeth May straw. This is interesting because you know how much she likes to virtue signal about things. And go figure, she's... like everyone else, a politician, a liar. Here we go, National Post. They got paywalls on like every site now. It's driving me crazy. Elizabeth May was holding a single-use cup before photo was altered to a reusable one. It's all just virtue signaling. You can see it in the picture here. Let me bring it up a bit. Yeah, so you see they And it was a Green Party cup that was a single-use cup. I mean, come on, they had to actually get these made. And look, I don't actually care, though I think plastic should be made out of hemp and cornstalk cellulose and all that kind of stuff, which the government monopolized out of, Standard Oil out of, being by pushing their laws against hemp for so many years on a federal level. Anyway, it's a whole other story. I'll get into that after. But it's just funny because, these politicians, it's all veneer. They're liars. It's all about the facade of them. It's like decorating a dilapidated building with, a veneer of beautiful brickwork, and just looks amazing. In reality, it's styrofoam, and you step on it and you'll fall through the floor, and it's all just complete nonsense. They went out of their way to not even properly Photoshop. Like, people realize the internet exists, right? Like, people can look at these things online, and I mean, it doesn't actually look real. So, like, they didn't even do a good job of it. It just says a lot about the current state of... I shouldn't say the current state of politics. Politics in general, that's the way politics is just a bunch of liars and criminals trying to vie for your vote to vote them into power so they can stick guns to the heads of the masses and extort them for what they think is best for everyone. And it's usually what the establishment thinks is best for everyone, even the anti-establishment candidates. So we got R. Warren Harris just sent $3 Canadian. Thank you, Warren. I appreciate it. R. Warren Harris. What's your first? I don't know what your first name is, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. Those super chats go a long way, and it's the only real way that we're able to monetize on YouTube right now. It's the only way that we're able to actually keep this video up and or these videos going up and on a daily basis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day sometimes. Rika the Hopeful Volunteer says 101 people watching, 5 thumbs up. Make sure to press like on the video. I don't know, maybe you need to refresh, Rika. I don't know if that might actually be the case, but nonetheless, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Make sure to press like and help us out on Patreon. I just saw that the Psychedelic Professor just pledged $5 a month. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That makes a huge difference. Those Patreon pledges, seriously, are my only income right now for the most part. So, again, makes a huge difference. Anyway, make sure to press like if you haven't already. And back to the news. Let's see here. Let's bring this up. All right. Blackface. You'd think that would sink a Prime Minister's career, especially when he's an SJW jock frat boy who gets all the votes by virtue signaling and spreading complete bogus nonsense about racism and bigotry left and right, empowering people like Maxime Bernier, by the way. But no, it doesn't, and he gets an endorsement from Obama. Of course. One establishmentarian is to another. That's going to happen, of course. And of course, at the same time, he's dealing with the SNC-Lavalin affair. So while he virtue signals a lot, like Elizabeth May with her fake cup and fake straw and everything photoshopped into her picture. Justin Trudeau has fired more women than any other prime minister in history. So much for being all for women's rights. Unless they disagree with you, Mr. Ski Instructor, drama teacher, second-rate drama teacher at that. Cue the video of Justin Trudeau falling down the stairs. You know what? I gotta play that. It's just too good. Let me just get this up and running here. Justin Trudeau falling downstairs. Did they delete it from the internet yet? Let's see. I got to be careful because if I show the wrong clips, I will get my channel taken down. So, here we go. Let's not get a copyright strike and have to deal with this for months like I did with a recent video, even though it's fair use, because I am currently talking about this video where he demonstrates falling downstairs. This is a video where he's talking, where he teaches someone how to fall downstairs. This is how I picture Justin Trudeau every morning when I wake up, is him falling downstairs. Why was that only a one-time thing? Well, there was boxing matches as well. Okay, I'm getting into things that people will claim I'm promoting violence, and I'm not. I just find it funny because I hate politicians, and I hate organized crime syndicates, and I hate gangsters extorting the public, pushing people into poverty, and then coming out as the solution to poverty. It makes me sick, and these people should be, I don't know how they sleep at night. People should be disgusted with themselves. Just absolutely disgusting. And the massive amount of printing of currency, the central planning, the Canadian dollar, Canada's going into a recession, folks. Well, Trudeau's approval rating falls, but to get seats, because they got to play certain games, Trudeau's probably still going to win. But if someone else won, the printing would go on, and poverty would continue to skyrocket. People would continue to lose money. The price of living would continuously go up while the purchasing power goes down, and the ability to be able to actually pay the rent goes down and down and down. And people working 3 jobs can't afford a house or an apartment, even a small apartment like we see in San Francisco and places like that, in LA as well. And you just have massive homeless rates, not because people can't work, but because people cannot. First of all, the employment rate's actually terrible despite the number that they're giving us, because if you look at the labor force participation rate, where the labor numbers are actually hidden, it's actually at a really bad low, and it's closer to around 20% unemployment. But anyway, push that aside. You have all this unemployment and the price of living is going up, and then people say we need to raise wages. That would destroy more businesses and push people out of work more, because they have to deal with the government too. They have to keep up with profits so that they can pay their employees so they can stay alive as a business, folks. It's not the wages. It's the price of living. It's the inflation, the hidden tax, on top of like the 65% tax rate that the average Canadian has to pay overall when you take into account all the sales taxes, including in some provinces, general sales taxes or federal, provincial sales taxes and municipal sales taxes. It's absurd. We got a super chat from Brett Turner. Thank you, Brett, for the $5 Australian. That makes a huge difference. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Those super chats keep us alive. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. Hall says, I don't care. I want free money. Well, go and get free money. Go work for the central bank. You'll get lots of free money. Or work for a bank in general. Or work for the government. Oh, wait, well, that's actually just extorted off the masses. Do people realize how much of their taxes actually go to paying off the interest on the debt? Not the debt, the interest on the debt. At the creation of currency, they're printing so much currency, and then you guys are extorted. They put guns to your head and say, give us your money, though it's mostly just fear more than force, but people are scared into doing it anyway. And they put a gun to your head and say, give us your money. We need it to help poor people. But by the very metric that they need your money for, they're making people poor. They're printing currency, which is causing the price of living to go up and causing the purchasing power to go down and pushing people into poverty. And then they put a gun to your head, extort you, and say, we need your money in order to pay off the interest on the debt, which shows that they never plan on actually paying off the debt. Does anyone not realize this loop we're in, this infinite loop? And it doesn't matter what party gets in, that will continue to be the case. And no, making the Bank of Canada, or keeping the Bank of Canada, quote unquote, public, won't change anything either. I'm sorry, Rocco Galati has a good idea and everything, but it won't work. Because, you know why? Because if you were to, make a private central bank public, then you just switched hands from private to public. What difference does that make? They still continue doing the exact same thing. And who gets hurt the most? You. And who gets extorted the most? You. And who sees more poverty? You. And who comes in and says, we'll save you from this poverty? The government. And what does the government do? More printing, more taxing, more extorting, more regulations, destroying businesses, monopolizing big corporations while saying that they're trying to stop the monopolization of big corporations with their regulations and taxes. Because the small businesses can't compete against the big businesses because the big businesses can deal with the regulations. It can deal with the taxes, all while the price of living inflates at a vast scale, and it causes people to be pushed further into poverty. And these guys come with a big smile and F you on their face and say, come give us your vote. Give me your vote and I will save you from the problems that I am heavily involved in, because, we need a few cuts over here, and we need a few regulations over here, a few taxes over here, a few little rules and laws over here. We need this program. We need to help old people. No, what they're actually doing is destroying all these people, and then they come in as a solution. It's problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity. It's called a Hegelian dialectic. Look it up. Anyway, make sure to press like if you haven't already. Luke Monkman, taxation is theft? Absolutely, it is. It's 100% theft, and the question is, what are people doing about it? That should be the number one question on people's minds. It's all fear. It's all fear. That's how they get people to be so subservient to these massive attacks on free will. But yeah, just imagine that. Most of your taxes, or a large chunk of your taxes, go to paying off the interest on the debt. Other parts go to military spending, and the other parts go to bureaucracy for the most part. and all stolen from you at gunpoint, saying they're going to fix the roads. And the roads need a very small amount of money compared to the overall budget. And, and people voluntarily will want certain things, and demand will play in their favor if they want a road that's private that isn't a toll road, and they'll pay for it. Unlike most countries that have government roads and they put toll roads in, even though it's already government, we need to pave the roads, but also we need to extort you every time you go to work, so you lose like the first hour of pay and then the last hour of pay of your job. But it's to make things better and convenient. The free market would not allow something like that to happen, and if it did, then it would be a pretty terrible place, and people would avoid it, and therefore, yeah, the free market wouldn't allow it to happen. Anyway, sorry, voting is fake. Fake. I completely agree. It doesn't actually do anything other than extort your neighbor if it actually worked, and if that's a big if. That's a huge if. Anyway. Stavro says, yes, fix the road. They've been saying that they fix the road the same year they build it. Yeah, I know, because I remember being in construction, and I remember my foreman screaming at me for putting in rebar in a part of the road, and he specifically didn't want me to put rebar in a large chunk of the road and have concrete poured in there because they had the contract, or he claimed that they had some contract. And the road would crack up, and they'd come back and redo it a couple years later. It's just a circle of fraud. But that's a smaller part of the situation. But they always use that. I know in Winnipeg, Canada, like the amount of potholes in the road, it's alarming. I've actually partially destroyed a vehicle driving over potholes there. I always laugh when I'm in the United States and I'm driving around, and I'm using Waze maps, and it says pothole spotted on road ahead, and I'm like, if that was in Winnipeg, it would be like pothole, pothole, overlapping each other. It wouldn't even make sense to do. But anyway, the point is, then every time they're like, we need to fix a road, so that's why we need to tax people more. We need to fix a road, so that's why we need to tax people more. And it's just like they use that as an excuse every election cycle. It's absurd. And every tax cycle, as they extort people more and more to account for the price of living and all that kind of stuff. And then people say, we need higher wages. Well, no, we need less inflation and printing of currency. R. Warren Harris sent another $2 Canadian. Thank you so much, man. He says, no such thing as a public-owned hospital in Canada. Well, that's a thing. A lot of people say, well, what about my free healthcare? Well, that is a hugely misunderstood issue. And honestly, while I get extorted to death in the United States if I'm sick, it's actually a lot of Canada's blame and a lot of these socialized healthcare countries to blame for the high prices in the United States, because there's monopolized companies that have no incentive to lower their price. Why? Because people are extorted for vast quantities of money to pay for the free healthcare, but that money mostly goes towards these big pharmaceutical rackets. Yet you go into these hospitals and there's barely any nurses or doctors in them, and you wait in a waiting room for like 12 hours, and they give you the wrong medication. And doctors are a huge cause of death, by the way. Statistically, not that it's a problem with doctors, but it's a problem with terrible healthcare systems. But then these companies like Pfizer and Bayer or whatever get propped up like insanely by this taxpayer money, and no one can compete against them. And with intellectual property and patent laws, you can't compete with the same medication for a better price. So we have one guy holding that above people with the force of government, saying the government gave us this monopoly on this idea. And this is what Martin Shkreli was trying to teach people about years ago when he raised the price of that AIDS medication. There were other medications, and people weren't going to die from it, but he did it in order to prove the point that they have a huge hand up in the game with intellectual property and patent laws and that kind of stuff. Anyway. David Cox says healthcare isn't free. $20,000 of my taxes yearly goes to healthcare. Yeah, I know, it's absurd. By the way, $1 a month, man. $20,000 in taxes alone, man. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, we're shadow banned on YouTube, if you haven't noticed. We need those thumbs up, and we need those super chats, and we need that help, and Patreon subscribes to all that kind of stuff. And see, that's voluntary. People voluntarily contributing to something that they support. Stavros says, wow, YouTube just kicked me off. Well, sometimes they do that if you comment too much. Personally, I'm fine with you commenting as much as you want, but yeah, Luke Monkman says, Josh is Canadian. I am. Steve Stevens says, Josh, do you live in Canada or the States? I spent part of my time in the United States and part of my time in Canada, but I grew up in Canada and spent most of my years in Winnipeg. I know. I accept your apologies. Anyway, but, my whole thing is that Canada is really cucked by politics, and they are in the States too, but it's just like a weird, almost a slightly different scenario in Canada because there's not even much of a selection at all. I mean, it's the right is left, and then the left is at ultra left, and it's sad. It's absurd. Anyway, David Cox says, I would rather opt out of healthcare and pay my way. Yeah, of course. Well, and that's the thing. In the United States, it costs such an insane amount of money to get medical care, but the medical care is amazing. And just like that, and it saved my life. It truly saved my life. I had a health scare last year where someone put something in my drink, whether intentionally or not. I got very sick. I was in critical condition in the hospital with a heart rate of over 175. And I got in there, and immediately when I got in, they cared for me. In Canada, it would have taken like hours for them to see me, and I would have been dead. They told me I would have died. So it's just like when I see that people bash the U.S. healthcare system, it's like, yeah, you're bashing the prices, and rightly so, and Obamacare certainly hasn't helped with that. And the laws in the U.S., when it comes to me trying to get my own health insurance in the U.S., is absurd as well. And that's government standing in your way once again. You don't need more of that. You need less of that. But with that said, also the prices are so high because the prices are propped up by vast taxation in other countries that are thrown at these massive monopolies, which prop them up more, and they are regulated in favor of, and it destroys all competition in the market. And with patent laws and intellectual property, you cannot compete against it at all. So essentially, they just have an upper hand on everyone, and the government comes in and says, "We're here to save you." No, you're the one that's making more people die than like you're killing people. You're literally killing people in this healthcare system, and it's disgusting. Do you know how many people die in the waiting rooms in Canada? It's sick. But I always hear in the U.S. from ultra leftists that are like, "Oh, you're from Canada? They got great healthcare." Why? Why do you say that? Well, because Bernie Sanders, Michael Moore, no, you guys don't know what you're talking about when you say that. You're literally just regurgitating something that someone else said. Anyway, and that's so much the case. It's identity politics, folks. R. Warren Harris sent another $2 Canadian. Says sick kids charity is worth about $30 billion. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for those super chats. That makes a huge difference here, and it's the only thing keeping us alive. So thank you. Crod7435 says, Josh, did you hear Bitcoin went up big a couple weeks ago? It went up big in June, and it went down big since, and that's the way it is, and it's very flexible, and there's a lot of big factors keeping it down. But yeah, I've been watching. If anyone's interested, make sure to press like on the video, and make sure to help us out by you could tip us in Bitcoin if you wish. There's a way to get around inflation. There's a way to get around the massive printing by these criminals in Ottawa. Now, for those of you watching, I want you to comment. What interests you most about the Canadian elections? What makes you glued to the TV, if at all, regarding this 2019 election? And does anything to you actually stand out and apart from other past elections? Let me know in the chat. I want to hear your thoughts on things, folks. For those that are just tuning in, we're talking about the circus of Canadian politics because, as per usual, every single candidate is facing massive controversies, and people don't seem to get the picture that it's all a game. It's a game of chess, and you're the pawns that they sacrifice for the king and the queen. You got Justin Trudeau's blackface controversy, then Obama endorses him anyways. Then you got the SNC-Lavalin affair. And all the crazy stuff like Trudeau praising Castro and Trudeau praising the Chinese basic dictatorship. I'm sure that Canadians would love that. All the communist college, university kids would love that. And then there's this story regarding Kinsella, consulting firm working to seek and destroy Bernier's PPC party, documents say, and apparently Andrew Scheer allegedly sent this group, Daisy Group, after the PPC. Nothing strange about him. These consulting firms are used by every election campaign. And honestly, I don't really care. It's just a point that it's just dirty politics. And it's all about the facade. It's not about the truth. It's not about getting to the truth. It's not about being real with people. It's about creating fake news in order to get people to vote for you. It's all a fake veneer. It's all playing a part. It's a popularity game. It's like being in school and trying to vie for popularity and not being yourself and doing that and lying to yourself. The difference is this includes putting guns to people's heads and extorting millions of people in order to push your stupid statist viewpoints. And of course, we got this article here. Buckle up. Canada's election will be a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger? Yeah, a cliffhanger for who's going to extort us next. I actually think Trudeau's going to win again, unfortunately. And I think Tim Moen, the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, who recently talked to us here at WHAM and did an interview with us, is right in pointing that out. I do believe that we are at a point where they're just going for seats. They just want seats. They don't actually like Trudeau. Liberals don't like Trudeau. It's just that they got to use this virtue signaling shiny pony in order to make, get their agenda pushed forward. The carbon tax. They want to keep their stupid carbon tax, and they know it's not realistic to expect Elizabeth May, the communist, to get in. So all that kind of stuff. I think that all plays into the circus. But it's all controversies left and right. Singh says he wants to make sure Canadians win no matter the results. Well, Canadians lose no matter the results, Mr. Singh. Let's see here. Justin Trudeau battles for his political survival as Canada gets ready to vote. I don't think he's going to have a problem with it. This is Barack Obama's tweet from the other day. He says, I was proud to work with Justin Trudeau as president. He's a hard-working, effective leader who takes on big issues like climate change. The world needs his progressive leadership now, and I hope our neighbors to the north support him for another term. It's better than my Bush impersonation. Anyway, it's all just a bunch of corrupt career politicians fighting with each other, and then you got Elizabeth May with her fake photoshopping, virtue signaling about environments, and she isn't actually a real environmentalist herself. And if she was, she'd care more about getting rid of the regulations that destroy the free market ability to make the environment a better place. And instead, she focuses on taxing people, like stealing people's money and making people more poor is going to help save the environment. And she says it's a good economic thing. Elizabeth May knows nothing about economics. I've interviewed her on it before. Let's see if YouTube allows me to look that up. Let's see. Elizabeth May, World Alternative Media. Is this going to work? Oh, what do you know? What do you know? It's not even there. Look at that. Shadow banning. Complete, utter shadow banning. Let's try putting in my name. Josh Sigurdsson. Let's see here. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, there it is at the end of the first page. This is my interview from years ago with her, and I don't care to play it because it's kind of cringy. But nonetheless, Elizabeth May is another one of the liars. And look, Bernie, I understand what people see in him, but if you actually look at his voting record, he was pro-war in Libya, he was pro-United Nations, pro-globalism, pro-central bank, he was pro-prohibition, he was pro all these things that neocons love, and he saw an opening for populism, so he jumped on the train. He didn't learn since then. You don't learn in your late 50s suddenly to be a libertarian after all those years of being in office. He knows that there is an opening for him there, and he took it and ran with it. Look, I love what he says about political correctness. It's great. But he also is obsessed with allocating people's private property, which is very much a, what do you call it? It's a communist tactic to be able to take people's property and use it by the hand of government. Look, if you were to accept that government has a right to take people's property and ban people from getting onto that property and has a collective government property, public property, this communist myth, if you were to accept that, now also consider this. If they own that land, then they own all that's on their land. If anyone's on that land, they're either trespassing or they're allowed and under their conditions. So therefore, everyone that's on that land is then theirs. So therefore, everyone on that land is it's a cattle, a horde of cattles. I can't talk right now. Of the upper echelon that owns that land, so therefore the government owns you. And people don't consider that enough, and they think that that'll be used wisely. This is just an excuse to be able to take over more and more land. Dave Bongo Slide said unsubscribed now. Okay. Dave Bongo Slide says, my unsubscription is me, not a government agency. Bye. Unbelievable. You had a massive holiday, yet you cry money all day. You mean the person who flew me to the Middle East, to Turkey to investigate stories? I didn't pay for any of that. And it's not a holiday to work. I'm working. I work wherever. I don't have to work at a job at, I don't have a 9-to-5 job, moron. I work wherever I am. That's the point of independent media. You report on stories around the world. It's world alternative media. A person who was a fan of mine, by the name of Fred Cost, was a donor, and he brought me to Turkey. I didn't spend money on that. And also going to Mauritania, I wouldn't consider a vacation. I went to a third world country and risked my life to make a documentary. And if people don't like it, so be it. It's my media, and I'm trying to bring people answers on the ground regarding things that are happening around the world instead of just reading articles all day. Dave Bongo Slice says, all I know is I'm trying to tell you something important and you're not reading it. There's a million comments. I don't see everyone's comments. I add law to your site and truth. I have no idea what you're saying, dude. Are you drunk? Rob Sigurdsson says, Bongo obviously doesn't watch your videos to the end. Yeah, I see him commenting all the time, but apparently not. It's absurd. You think by someone sending me, someone pledging to send me to Turkey, that's me just traveling all over the world and whining about money? You realize I work 18 freaking hours a day to bring your sorry ass free videos? 18 hours a day with almost no money. I make almost nothing off of this. I could have sold out a long time ago. I was offered jobs by the CBC to toe their line. I was offered jobs by a lot of people. And I turned them down because I care about information, and I care about bringing free information to the public 24/7. That's why I work day in, day out. I have no time for myself. I work 18 hours a day to bring sad saps like you videos so that you can complain about how I ask for people to maybe contribute $1 a month to help save independent media. You're a loser, and dude, I don't want to hear any more from you. Get lost. I don't care if I lose you as a viewer. You're a complete moron and have absolutely no concept of how things work and how you're not just going to be given free things all the time for free. Free isn't free. Things cost money. So, I don't know. Maybe turn off this video and go elsewhere. I don't care. I don't care about you. And I don't care about your whining about me saying, hey, I'm bringing free content to you guys, and I'm going to dangerous countries to bring it to you, and maybe $1 a month might help. Dave Bongoslide says, I was telling you that the Bulgarian government hacked my account, and the British tax office wrote to me, supported them. Okay, there's like 500 comments in the chat. I'm supposed to read every single one? Anyway, you're a loser. Get lost. I think you either been drinking or I don't know what's going on, but I really don't care to interact with you anymore. Anyway, Michael says, Justin and Hillary stink. Yeah, what was that comment years ago by Alex Jones that Obama smells like sulfur? I feel like, that might be somewhat true. They're pretty sick individuals. Tim Dog says, hey, from Oregon. Hey, Tim, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone joining in here. We have 124 people of 135,000 people watching, but the subscriptions have been going up a little bit lately due to my videos on Karahan Tepe, which I'm really happy to see. Anyway, for those interested, we are talking about the news. I asked earlier for people to give me an idea of what really stands out about this election to them in Canada, and I am looking, and there's so many comments, it's really hard to keep up with everything. You're digging your own grave, you lot, says Sat Singh. I don't know what you're saying or who you're saying it to. I wanted to migrate to Canada in early 90s, but thank God I didn't. You're Scandinavia of America. Well, yeah. Well, as far as socialism goes, yeah. Well, people are wittingly allowing government to enslave them in every country in the world. They're just constantly thinking that the government is a solution to government, like they cannot exist without an enforced governance system, instead of just, I don't know, ruling themselves, being responsible, being independent, not being a slave, and using the free market as a governance structure and creating your own private contract voluntary governance systems that don't include people putting guns to your head and forcing you to do things. You decide what you want to do. You decide what is acceptable. But I think the number one thing that people have to do is just disobey. Disobey. That's all you have to do. Just disobey. Dave Bongo Slide says, calling me a loser is not very nice. It's just sad. Yeah, but you are a loser. So let's see. I'm going to put you in a timeout. There we go. My dad says, Dave, you unsubscribed. Go away. I agree. Anyway. Carrying on, and it's sad because I see some people that have been watching me for a long time and they somehow still don't have any concept of what I'm doing, and then so they complain about absurd things that make no sense and show that they're not actually paying attention. Rainy Steps sent 279 Canadian, says, for all your hard work. Thank you, Rainy Steps. You're probably one of my biggest contributors here at WHAM. You're just always helping out, and I really appreciate it. I want you to know that I really appreciate your help. It means a lot to me to see supporters out there. And for those just tuning in, make sure to press like if you haven't already. We're talking about the election and choosing your next master. Essentially picking out of a group of slave masters to whip you into oblivion, and maybe some might whip you only once a day instead of twice a day, or some might whip you 3 times a day, so you want to stay away from those. Oh, but they might give you a chocolate bar while they whip you, so maybe you do want those. No, they're all criminals. They're government's organized crime, and we have to stop relying on these entities of absolute criminality to rule over you, because it just perpetuates the same old thing over and over again for eternity, and people just don't learn. People just don't learn. You don't need these entities of criminality to save you from themselves, the problems they create in the first place. They come to your house and put a gun to your head and say, hey, we need your money to pay off the interest on the debt. We need your money to get you out of poverty, so give me your money even though you're already impoverished. Well, then that money goes towards paying off the interest on the debt, which is interesting because this is the whole concept that kind of goes down. So they print a bunch of currency out of thin air at the Bank of Canada. And what happens next is let me actually just bring this up on the screen here real quick. Bank of Canada. All right, let's pull this up, images, and we're entering into a recession if you haven't noticed, folks. But anyway, so here's how this works. So essentially, they print a bunch of currency out of thin air at the Bank of Canada. Whether it's private or public is irrelevant because they use legal tender laws and usury, enforce usury under the social contract to enforce you to pay off these interest payments that you never agreed to in the first place, other than by being born, essentially. So they print all this currency, and it causes the price of living to go up. The price of living skyrockets, and the value of the currency plummets. So what happens next? Well, what happens next is that you end up paying off the interest on the debt. So they steal your money. You're already made more and more poor. Wages equal less. So they say raise wages, and then you end up losing your job because businesses move out of town or move out of the country, and they can't keep up with the costs. And small businesses get destroyed, and big businesses are propped up, and they automate, of course. But then they say, well, we're here to help you. Just give us more of your money, and we'll save you from this problem. So then they take that money, and then they use most of it to pay off the interest on the debt that happened at the first step there by printing the currency that creates a problem. See what I mean? It's problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity. And that is how they enslave the populace. Central banks are enslaving people. They're impoverishing tens of millions of people. They're killing millions because they prop up wars, and they do vast deficit spending. So you bomb a bunch of countries, and then you prop up your system by printing lots of currency. Then banks have all these fake reserves, so they print all this currency, and now they're looking at negative interest rates in the future. And it's so crazy, it's so insane, and at the end of the day, people suffer. And it destroys the middle class. The only thing that's left of the middle class is basically just a populace, engulfed in the fire of debt. The only reason the middle class exists to some scale is that those people are in vast amounts of debt, so they're poor people with a lot of debt. And that's the unfortunate reality of it. So you can thank the Communist Bank of Canada for all of this pleasantness. And it says a lot about the subservience of the populace and how ignorant so much of the populace is when people end up keep paying into the system. They keep saying, well, maybe this face is different. Well, look, if it's change you want, maybe it's not the person that you want that to be different. Maybe it's a system. Maybe you don't want the same system over and over and over again for eternity. Austin Trail says free markets are key. Absolutely. That's how you create new systems to replace the old, instead of us complaining as much as many do about all these problems. Then you come in with the solutions, and there's more solutions than there are problems. And we see that all the time. Look at the taxi mob industry in the United States. You have Uber and Lyft, though Canada is heavily restricted in many places regarding that, because government cares so much about your wealth that they're going to restrict competition for people to make more money off their job and at the same time save you money. So yeah, and then, for example, Airbnb versus the hotel mafia. And, there's a lot of places where Airbnb is illegal, but you still see thousands of examples of Airbnb in those cities anyway, because people don't care, because it's a great thing and it's helping people, and people just disobey. Great. And then you have so many other examples. Bitcoin versus the central banks. I saw Rainy Steps sent another 279 Canadian, and it says, can we all pitch in a few bucks, please? Thank you so much, Rainey. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is sad. 1 in 10,000 people on average will give $1, which is really concerning to me, because our channel is getting absolutely obliterated by shadow banning and censorship here on YouTube. So your help means a lot to us, and I really, really, truly appreciate that. So thank you so much for that. We also have Patreon, GoFundMe. We have Subscribestar, where we will give people free content. Well, not free, I should say. $5 a month or more on GoFundMe will get you free content that you won't see on YouTube. Subscriber-only content. We also have float.app, flote.app. I'll put that in there. Please go join me on float.app. I've been waiting for more people to join me. I put it in the chat. It's a new social media that is replacing Facebook. It's replacing Twitter, it's replacing YouTube, it's replacing Twitch and Tumblr, it's replacing Reddit, it's replacing Patreon. And it's brand new. They're coming out with a lot of stuff. Let me see if anyone's followed me since the last time I said. I went from 825 followers to, let's refresh this, 826. So we got one new one. Make sure to follow me on float.app at Josh Sigurdson, as well as at WAM, at WAM. Makes a huge difference, because we need to get to these other platforms before YouTube just deletes my channel and you'll never see me again, folks. I mean, you got to back it up somehow, folks. Like, really, it's killing me, because I have to keep saying it. Like, YouTube's dead, and we're going to be all deleted off of YouTube soon. They just deleted Red Ice TV a couple days ago off of YouTube without any reason as to why. And they had 330 subscribers and 45 million views, and no one talks about why. Like, YouTube won't respond as to why they did it. So it's about time we get on these platforms and back up this amazing audience that watches us on these other platforms. We got BitChute as well. Let's see, 414 subscribers to 415. We got one new subscriber since last time I checked. World Alternative Media on BitChute. And a lot of stuff is linked below this live stream. Anyway, blackface. Oh, and also criminality and frat boy behavior. It's funny that he had to apologize in Winnipeg. There's Robert Falcon Ouellette, who I've interviewed many times, MP, and Jim Carr, the real MP. It's great. So this guy is just like a drunken, possibly racist frat boy who virtue signals. Tried virtue signaling to pick up women, and now does it. Well, if maybe women. I won't insinuate anything. And now virtue signals to get votes so he could extort people, extort the masses. It's pretty crazy. I really regret wearing black face. Yeah, Trudeau's a liar, and he's a psychopath, and he's a scumbag, as I called him to his face. Let's see if that actually comes up anymore, because I don't know, with all the shadow banning. Trudeau scumbag. Gotta watch out what comes up on Google Images. Oh, there I am. Okay. So it's still kind of out there. Good times. So when I call out Scheer or even Maxime Bernier or something like that, people call me a commie or a liberal. And people forget that I'm the guy who called Trudeau a scumbag and got choked out for it. And there's a lot more to it. The fake mainstream media made up a lot of stories surrounding it. But the reality is what actually happened. Oh, and this man right here is passed away now. I found out recently. May rest in peace. I've met him a few times. Anyway, so the issue is that the media claimed at the time when I called him a scumbag that I just came in there and swore in front of a bunch of children. There's no children in the room. And it was like a 5-minute confrontation, and it's all up on World Alternative Media. And I also did a video on why I called Justin Trudeau a scumbag. Anyway, so what happened was I got there and they gave me 5 questions to pick out of. The Prime Minister's office came up to all the media, including Huffington Post, CBC News, CTV Global, etc., and said, here are 5 questions you can pick out of which he is prepared to answer. And I'm like, how about no, I got my own questions. And essentially they said, well, then you can't ask a question. I should have just gone along with it and asked whatever I wanted. But anyway, so I ended up going to the side, on the side of him, waiting between questions politely. And I said, how do you justify people having to choose between heating their homes and feeding their families in the winter due to your carbon tax? Because people were suffering. People are impoverished, and it's destroying the lower class the most, and it's a tax on everything. And one of his people, the guy you see in that picture, started choking me. And all the mainstream media cameras immediately shifted away from me. And what happened next was I kind of fought with him for a while and ended up walking in front of the camera. And I should probably bring that up. Let's see. Trudeau scumbag. And watch, even my video is probably not going to be at the top. Yeah, see? Global News' version, CBC's version, all that. But my video that I did that has way more views is not at the top of the search. Good times. Anyway, figured I'd point that out. So everyone, when I criticize someone other than, Justin Trudeau, then people call me a leftist. But then when I criticize Justin Trudeau, people call me a Nazi or a fascist. That is the reality of the stupid, hyperbolic, ridiculous virtue signaling civilization that we live in today. And by the way, this is my friend Lee Stewie, who also confronted Justin Trudeau. She works with Dan Dix at Press for Truth. She does good work too. Anyway, if anyone wants to check out Press for Truth. But anyway, so my point is, it's just an example of politics in a nutshell. It's organized crime boss versus organized crime boss, and people all just pick their flavor of collectivism. And collectivism is a cancer, folks, and it all ends with you getting extorted to enforce your will or someone else's will on the masses. 51% ruling the 49%, or in Canada's case, a lot less than 50% ruling the rest of the people. And it doesn't work. Democracy doesn't work. It's 2 wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for dinner, and it's a terrible thing. Make sure to press like if you haven't, if you're just coming onto this video right now. Anyway, so it's all a scam. It's the greatest scam ever perpetrated on humanity, next to central banking and printing currency. And it's meant to keep you in perpetual subservience so that you... Barnes466 says, voted PPC here in Halifax, so proud. Don't be proud of that. Don't be proud of voting. Never be proud of voting. You're voting for other people's masters. You're voting for someone to rule your neighbor. One person might be better than the other, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still it's an organized crime syndicate. Government is organized crime. Why do you think every single election it happens over and over again? We need someone new. We need change. We need a new anti-establishmentarianist candidate. We need someone new. Because people want to be free, but they keep looking in the wrong places. Instead of getting rid of the system, they replace the person at the head of the system. And it just carries on for eternity, and it's really sad, and it needs to stop immediately. This is all just you saying, you know what? I think my neighbor should pay for my new kitchen that I can't afford. So I'm going to put a gun to his head. I'm going to get another neighbor together and say, you agree, right? Yeah, okay, he should pay for my kitchen. And the neighbor's like, wait, what? I don't want to pay. No, it's for the greater good, because my kitchen is going to be clean, and it's going to be good for my kids, my family, because it's going to be clean, and there's going to be hygiene, and it'll be nice, and all that kind of stuff. And it'll also improve the cost of my house, and they might improve the cost of the neighborhood overall in time. So give me your freaking money. And the neighbor is like, okay, well, I guess I got a gun to my head. Why is it suddenly okay to do that when it's government? Onto the masses, extorting people, creating more poverty, and then coming in as a solution to the poverty. Barnes 466 says the less of two evils, though. Getting whipped once a day versus getting twice a day is better than getting, of course, yeah, but it's still getting whipped. You should stop being whipped and stop perpetuating that system. It's not your fault. I know most people do this, but look, the issue at hand is that the lesser of evil is still evil, and it is a Hegelian dialectic over and over again, as you mentioned. So don't be proud of voting. Never be proud of voting. Never, ever, ever be proud of voting. You're voting for someone else's master, and it's wrong. And on top of that, what happens? You get the lesser of evils. Well, look at Maxime Bernier's record. Voting for war, voting for prohibition, voting for the United Nations and globalism and central banking and all that kind of stuff. But he comes in and says, oh, I see an opening for anti-establishmentarianists in Canada. I see an opening for populism. So I'm just going to weasel my way in there and we'll all be good. What he says about, political incorrectness and political correctness and that kind of stuff is true. Absolutely. It's great. He should be a commentator. Not someone that runs a racket that puts guns to everyone's heads and demands money for stupid things that other people don't agree with. You don't have a right over other people's livelihoods. You don't have a right over other people's, reality. People should be able to choose their own reality without you coming in and saying, I know what's best for everyone and I'm going to steal their money. And by the way, to become a politician, you kind of have to be a psychopath. How much of a psychopath can you possibly be to be like, I think I know what's best for everyone, so I think, therefore, I should rule everyone. And I'm so great, and my ideas are so great that I'm going to go on a stage and get people to vote for me so I can extort them. It's crazy. It's totally psychopathic. Now, a lot of you might say, oh, well, you talk for a living and talk about your ideas for a living on YouTube. The difference is you have a choice to watch it or not, and it doesn't extort anyone. People can voluntarily decide if they want to fund independent media or not, which most of the time they don't, but you know what? Maybe that's on me. Maybe that's part of part of the problem there. Maybe I need to increase my overall demand. Anyway, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. I do appreciate that. It's another election. Last election, I did a video called. What was it? Oh man, I asked everyone on the streets. Which puppet are you voting for and why in 2015? Let's see. World Alternative Media Election 2015. Is this actually am I going to find it? I'm so shadow banned these days. It's almost impossible to actually find my own videos in the search, even if I type it in, World Alternative Media Election 2015. If I type it in, there's like one of my videos, but it's a recent video from a month ago that isn't what I'm talking about. Here we go. On the street, different puppets, same master, full election night 2015 report. And I asked people who they're voting for and why at different bars, and I took a shot every time because it was miserable. It's very sad. There's one of my old outros. Way too long. Way too long. And it isn't a very good quality video. Good old Shannon's Pub in Winnipeg, Canada. Used to love that place. But I am no longer in Winnipeg. I'm in a much warmer place, and it feels a lot better. So I guess their election in 2015 was October 19th, 2015. And by the way, I confronted Trudeau 2 days before the election, or 1 day before the election in 2015 as well. People forgot about that. Not a lot of views on that video, though. Let's see. Let's bring that up. People can see the screen, right? Okay, good. Justin Trudeau confronted Josh Sigurdson. Let's see if this actually works. Look at this. This is how shadow banned I am. It's so miserable to watch. Like, I type in the videos and they're not there. They're just not there. Look at that. Okay, there's one video, the full confrontation, but not the most popular one. The one called Why I Called Justin Trudeau a Scumbag. But anyway, there it is. Why I called Trudeau a scumbag later on in the video. Then there's Todd McDougall of Winnipeg Alternative Media talking about me confronting Trudeau a couple years ago. But where's my other confrontation of Trudeau? I confronted him more than once. Actually, I confronted him 4 times, but twice I got body slammed, and one time almost tased. but I was a man on a mission. Let's see. Why? Like, this is so absurd. This is me being interviewed by another channel about why I confronted him. Here we go, all the way down here, 4 years ago. See, I went to a rally, and it was 2 days, October 17th, 2015. Yeah, 2 days before the election. I'm like, let's confront Justin Trudeau. And it was great. Okay, skip through that horribleness. And, okay, I saw him come out of the building. It took me a lot to get to him here. But I said, hey, can I shake your hand? And then I tried to grab his hand and hold on to his hand, but then he just threw it away and got on his bus. So I tried to get around to security. I asked him about C-51, and I asked him why he's trying to create a police state with his police state bill, C-51, because someone asked his father that in the 1970s. You can't go, or we won't accept your police state, or you're creating a police state. You can't do that. And he says, just watch me. So I went to the window of the bus. You could see him on the bus there as well. And I kept confronting him. It wasn't my best confrontation ever, but I only got a moment of him, but better than most. And I kept trying, and then I saw him move to the other side of the bus. So I'm like, okay, what I got to do now is go to the other side of the bus. So I evaded getting tased here. This is pretty fun. Just wandered around. This guy's like, nope. And there I go. And he chased me. And the stupid Secret Service type people, thugs, meatheads, chasing me. And I just showed them the sign. They took off on the thing, and I tried to keep up with them. And I think I'm going to clip to my camera in a moment. Right here, yeah, there we go. Anyway, good times. But yeah, he's criminal, absolute criminal. But I thought that was obvious at this point in time that government is organized crime, folks, and you can switch the puppet out with another, and you'll still end up with a criminal deciding the fate of the masses. Though he's a puppet, there's a bigger establishment at play here that tells others what to do, what can be done, and extorts the masses in order to make sure that's done. Anyway. Lost Johnny says, that explains his body armor last week in Armed Guards. Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, I in Vancouver years ago, I was meeting up with Dan Dix of Press for Truth, and what happened was I saw that he was going to be in town at the Gay Pride Parade. That was that day when he pushed his kid down in a stroller down a hill to go and hug a drag queen. So it's so ridiculous. He was jumping around in that pink shirt and hopping around and doing jumping jacks or whatever. Anyway, so I went to confront him, and I saw him. So I hopped a fence, a removable fence, and I ran at him because I had one chance to get through the crowd. And a bunch of bodyguards came and grabbed me and threw me to the ground and basically put their knees in my back and kicked me out. Also at the Liberal Convention in Winnipeg, Canada, I had confronted Harjit Sajjan, the defense minister, as well as Bill Morneau, which are both up on YouTube as well, both confrontations. Then I saw Trudeau, and I chased him up an escalator and then down a hallway through a VIP section, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and some guy grabbed me to the ground and tried to tase me and then let go of me. So, yeah. Good times. But, yeah, government is organized crime, and all of these people are puppets, and they're all terrible. Barnes 466 says, yeah, you need to be careful. Both my dad and my uncle are RCMP retired heavy crimes. They are thugs. Yeah. Police are carrying out the henchman thuggery of the state. Sorry. I never understood in the States the people that have the NRA stickers, the people who have come and take it stickers, and then they have the thin blue line stickers on their vehicles at the same time, right next to the don't tread on me sticker. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? Those are the guys that are going to come and take your guns. Oh, but some are good, but they're carrying out the orders of the state. Their job is literally to do what the state tells them to do, and they only hire low IQ people. They actually have rules at most police departments that they cannot hire people with good IQs, with high IQs, and because they want people to be more emotionally reactive than logical, which is crazy. And then also,
their understanding or their ability to use and hold guns and point them properly is alarming, to say the least. And they are carrying out these red flag laws all over the U.S. where they're seizing people's guns. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're thugs. Bunch of meathead thugs. And a 40% spousal abuse rate. So, yeah. I've been beaten by them enough times in my life. And it wasn't just that. It's the whole concept and the reason they exist. Sickening. So anyway. There's a lot to talk about, folks. I always appreciate everyone tuning in. I appreciate Rainy Steps and R. Warren Harris and Brett Turner for the super chats today. That meant a lot to me. It goes a long way. Make sure to press a like if you haven't already on this video, and check out Patreon, GoFundMe, Subscribestar, all those things you could pledge. Just $1 a month, folks. That's all it takes. Is $1 a month to make a difference. That's $12 an entire year. Most people can deal with $1, and it keeps independent medias alive. If just 10% of you did that, 10% of 135,000 people, think of how incredible that could be. You could save independent media as we're getting shadow banned and deleted from history like a modern-day book burning. Don't allow it to persist. Don't allow it to happen. Contribute any way you can. If not to me, to Press for Truth, to We Are Changed, to one of these people. Folks, we're getting killed here. Like I showed you, you type in videos, even with the full title of the videos, like I said, World Alternative. Oh, wait, I put in Maxime Bernier. Now let me actually, am I on the screen here? Let's put it on the screen. Maxime Bernier, World Alternative Media. Oops. And I've interviewed him. And I've done so many, like a dozen to 24 reports on him. And look at this. This is the first YouTube page. All BS from other people that has nothing to do with World Alternative Media. And in many cases, much smaller viewerships and all that. Like, look at this video from Global News. 2,674 views. Why is that on the first page? And then it's all mainstream media propped up in here. And that's why we need your help more than ever. Here's a second page. Going down, going down, going down, going down. And here we go, about halfway down the page. A video I did with Tim Moen on it from the Libertarian Party. And my interview with him, finally all the way down here. 16,000 views on my interview with Tim Moen. 9,000 views on the interview. It wasn't the greatest interview. But the point is, look at how the algorithm treats me here on YouTube. We need you guys now more than ever. And to join us on float.app, flote.app. I'm refreshing again from 826 followers to 826 followers. Come on, none of you, not a single one of you that hasn't already signed up, came in and got an account on float.app. These are the solutions. Why aren't people willing to take the solutions? It's very frustrating. Independent medias are getting muzzled, and people aren't doing anything about it. Most people, anyway, 99.9% of people. And then there's BitChute. Let's see, has anyone else subscribed on BitChute? 415 subscribers to 415. Not a single person has come and subscribed on BitChute since I last mentioned it. Like, 30 minutes ago? Do you like YouTube that much that you're okay with it just being mainstream medias and all of us getting wiped out and deleted? You can't even press subscribe on BitChute? Go to an alternative? Get out of the YouTube realm? Maybe a little bit? Look at some of the solutions? Can't even do that? It's pretty depressing, folks. Pretty depressing. And it shows me that a lot of people are just not willing to give a damn when it comes down to it. But that is the way it is. I'm going to continue doing whatever I can to bring truth to the masses for free, 18 hours a day. If people want to contribute, they can. Door is open. Anyway, I appreciate those that do contribute. It means a lot to me, and it's the only thing that's keeping me alive right now as YouTube tries to win the information war for the mainstream media and book burn all of the independent medias. Because they know most people won't do anything about it, because most people are complacent with the system. What can I do other than keep working? Anyway, Rika the Hopeful Volunteer says, chin up, Josh. Yeah, I'll keep my chin up. But it's very depressing to see how few people actually care. Even pressing like makes a difference. Sharing the video makes a difference. Like ELXN2019 on Twitter is the hashtag. ELXN2019. Share this video with that. Share it on play. I don't know. Just take some priority of the future of the world. Care a little bit. It doesn't take much. It takes a couple clicks of buttons. Click, click, click. That's it. If you can't contribute money, $1 a month, then fine. Go to these alternatives. Get an account. Float takes 2 seconds to get an account on. flote.app. Anyway. Oh, well. I appreciate everyone. Miriam says, I will go. I have an account, and I got you on Patreon. Great. I appreciate it. I really do. It means a lot to me, those that actually do pledge and help out, and it makes a huge difference because you are the people that will save the future of information in this world and ensure that your children aren't fed mainstream media lies, indoctrinated into slave camps like out of 1984, but it's more like 2084 at this point. The Psychedelic Professor says, subscribe to you on Float and Patreon. I saw that. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all those people that are helping. It does mean a lot to me. I'm just kind of being a little critical of the people that just don't care. That can't press a couple buttons. Anyway, that's it for now. I appreciate everyone tuning in. It's been good reaching out to people. It's always great being able to talk to everyone and have these conversations. And make sure to press a like on the video if you haven't already. And check all those links below. And one more time, guys, I'm going to give that option. There's Bitcoin. You can tip in Bitcoin. It makes a huge difference, and it allows us to keep this media alive. Same with those super chats. The Psychedelic Professor says $60 is the least I could do. Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. Really do. Makes a huge, huge difference, and it's allowing us to continuously put out these videos on a daily basis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos sometimes. Jay Zimma sent Canadian $2. Jay Zimma, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. Makes a huge difference, and it allows us to keep this operation up and running and combat these idiots in the mainstream media, these control freaks, these criminals, these fraudsters that want you in chains. Anyway, until next time, thanks everyone, and again, thank you very much, Jay Zimma, for that super chat. Goes a long way here at WHAM. I'm going to bring up that Bitcoin address. And for anyone interested, I saw Austin Trail says, I'll send you some Bitcoin. Thanks for the info. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate that. Yes, we can be the change we wish to see. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Searson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. And thank you very much, Paul Busby, for that Australian $10. Sorry I was a bit late for that. Just closing it off now. But big shout out, big thank you. Means a lot to me. Thank you. Barnes466 says, we care, man. I know many of you do. And I appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, everyone.